Becoming a better guitar player faster really only comes down to 3 things. 1, practicing with the metronome consistently. Boring. 2, playing with other musicians, especially if they're a lot better than you can learn so much. And then 3, using a looper pedal. Using a looper pedal is a great and creative way to write chord progressions, melodies, songs, and jams. It can also help with your timing, getting your rhythm right. There's really just so many benefits that can come from learning how to use a looper pedal. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. We're going to learn how to use one in the best way possible, sort of how to get started with it, how to understand it if you've never used one before, all while taking a look at the new FF01 stereo looper pedal from Flamma. And if you find this video helpful in any way, please consider subscribing to support my channel. Let's now dive in. Now, the biggest tip I can give you to start is to start with very basic chord progressions and very minimal chords in those chord progressions. So basically, if you've never used a looper pedal before, just play the most simplest stuff just until you get used to using one. Now, the main thing I see a lot of people struggle with is successfully creating a clean loop. And what I mean by that is no pauses, no clicks in between the loop, and just a loop that doesn't sound consistent, doesn't sound clean whatsoever, doesn't sound in rhythm and things like that, and that's exactly what I'm gonna help you with right now. So I'll show you a few mistakes that a lot of beginner loopers make. They'll start the progression, right, but they won't start the loop the same time. For example, they would do something like this. Do you hear that sort of skip and jump? You can tell where the loop sort of got messed up. There's no real rhythm, and it's just really off. So not only can you make a mistake starting the loop, but you can also make a mistake finishing the loop. For example, let's say I have that same G chord progression. It's not played in time, it's not very clean and consistent, it's a little offbeat. So it does take a little bit of practice and work to sort of get a clean loop. So I guess the biggest advice and tip I can give you is this. You want to start the loop and hit the foot switch as you are playing the chord or progression or whatever. And if you're sort of struggling with this, here's what you can do. You can sort of already start playing a little bit beforehand and then do it. For example, you can go 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can sort of give yourself a little extra time instead of just going right at it, which is something that you're going to be doing eventually anyway once you get used to it. But another tip is to just keep playing through when you are stopping the loop. For example, when you're about to finish, once you hit that foot switch, you can still play through it, because this is the problem most people run into. They'll either stop playing too early, and then the next important tip, especially when just getting started with this, is to keep playing as you stop the loop. Don't stop playing as you stop the loop, because at first it can sort of mess you up sometimes. So for example, this is what you can do. That way you're guaranteed a much more clear loop and you're really not gonna run into any issues. Those are some precautions you can take. So key takeaways from this is that you wanna start the loop as you are starting the progression or whatever you're playing. And when you go to end the loop, keep that rhythm and time in your head. And I want you to briefly play a little bit more when you go to end the loop, just to guarantee a clean and great sounding loop. Now, another great thing about looping is that we can practice, let's say, things like triads and inversion shapes over chords. A lot of the time when we learn these things, there's really not a great example to really practice over online, because the things that we learn are very specifically tailored for us. For example, let's say you learned all of the major triad shapes in certain keys. You can now loop whatever chords you want to practice those specific triad shapes that you need to practice over. Now that's just a very basic way to practice, and that's also just an example. But if you want to get really technical and really advanced, you could work on your mode shapes and sort of hear how certain modes sound over certain chords. There really is a ton of stuff you can do with the looper pedal, and instead of recording yourself and playing it back, this is just a lot easier and it's a lot more fun. Now, most looper pedals will do the same thing. Some have extra features than others and things like that. So let's now go over the one that I've been using. Now, the really cool thing about this one is that it can store up to 40 loops. So that means you can save your favorite loops that you've created for another time. Now, each one of those loops have a maximum recording duration of 4 minutes, which is a lot of time for a loop, and that can even be a whole song if you wanted. It's got a USB port to connect to a computer to import, export, delete loops and audio. It's got a built-in stereo headphone output jack if you want to loop quietly, but if not, you can plug this bad boy into 2 amps because it's a stereo pedal. It's also just an affordable looper pedal, so if you're just looking to get started with all this, it's a great place to start. But if you've been doing this for a long time, you sort of just want like a throw around looper pedal that you can bring to multiple gigs, this is great too. It could be for the beginner looper or even the advanced. So let me know if you have any questions about looping down in the comments below, and I'll try and help you out as best as I can. And also please let me know some other videos or tutorials you would like to see me do on my channel. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please consider subscribing, and thanks as always for watching, and I will see you in the next one.